Chairman Thompson, thank you for hosting this hearing, and Secretary Vilsack, thank you for being here today. I represent the big 1st District of Kansas. We're the #1 beef, sorghum, and wheat producing district in the country. My district has more than 60,000 farms and ranches, feedlots, ethanol plants, and agribusinesses, and Farm Country has made it loud and clear that they cannot survive when the government burdens them with nonsensical regulations and red tape. Mr. Secretary, your proposed packers and stockyards rules are especially concerning to me because while I understand USDA was directed by Congress in the 2008 Farm Bill to undergo a prescriptive rulemaking under the Act, I also understand that that mandate was satisfied by a rule finalized during the Trump administration. Yet, the department ignores congressional intent and legal precedent regarding harm to competition. Congress has weighed in and made it clear that competitive harm or likelihood thereof is a requirement to establish a violation of the Act. As chairman of the Subcommittee on Livestock, Poultry, and Dairy, I can say that I concur with my predecessors on this point. And if we as Congress did not make it crystal clear, the courts certainly have. The harm to competition standard has been challenged in federal circuit court 8 times, and on 8 occasions, the courts have upheld the will of the legislative branch. In my opinion, this issue is settled, and I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues to craft sound, comprehensive livestock policy that honors the work of every link of the American agriculture supply chain. Next topic, Mr. Secretary. As you know, President Biden's budget eliminates the stepped-up basis and imposes a new capital gains taxes on the unrealized gain of assets held in family trusts for more than 90 years. This is the farm killer tax. We have to understand that these taxes the administration is putting down are not game changers, they're game enders for American agriculture and our family farms. My question for you, Mr. Secretary, in your opinion, what would the elimination of the stepped-up basis or the imposition of the farm killer tax do to family farms and small businesses?
You know, I'm not sure that that's what the president proposed, because I think there is a limitation or I don't know what the right word is, but there's an exemption that's attached to that, which will cover 99% of the farms that we're talking about. So I'm not sure that that's what he's proposed.
But Mr. Secretary, I mean, clearly the intent repeatedly by this administration is to do away with the stepped-up basis. We fought this fight 3 times now, and then a new tax, the farm killer tax. Everybody needs to understand. So lands owned by farms, I'm going to finish, for 90 years, in 2030 would be subject to a one-time capital gains tax. This is the one-time capital gains tax. This is devastating. I've co-sponsored I've introduced legislation introduced last week. We have bipartisan support to keep the stepped-up basis. And I don't understand how we can talk about food security if we're not willing to stand up for our ag producers. I'll let you finish, Mr. Secretary.
Well, obviously you and I disagree in terms of what the president has proposed. And I would say that we are, at the Department of Agriculture, we are working every single day to work for producers, for ranchers and farmers. And I could go through a litany of all the things that we've done and are doing to try to create additional markets, to expand markets, to provide credit, to provide disaster assistance. So I think it would be unfair to suggest that we're not concerned about our producers. We are.
Well, I would encourage everyone on this committee to join our legislation to tell the administration loud and clear that we want to keep the stepped-up basis for our ag producers. Next topic, June 2022, the EPA announced proposed revisions to the September 2020 proposed interim decision for atrazine that included a pick list of mitigation measures that producers would be required to implement when using atrazine. In the development of these mitigation measures, the EPA refused to incorporate any feedback provided by USDA. The public comment period on these revisions closed in October 2022, and USDA once again provided feedback. Mr. Secretary, have you had any conversations with Administrator Reagan about the importance of atrazine and why USDA feedback should be incorporated into these proposed mitigations?
I've had a number of conversations with the administrator about the important role that USDA has in terms of providing input to EPA. But frankly, Congressman, you know, this is a tough issue. I don't want the EPA administrator calling me and telling me how to do my job. Our job is to basically provide the information, provide it as best we can, provide the documentation behind it. EPA makes the decision, and then it's our job to figure out ways in which we can help farmers comply if they can. And that's what we're going to do.
I understand. I would just say if those of us in this room don't stand up for our ag producers, no one else is going to, and it's on us to make sure that we get it right for them. Last question. I know my time's expiring. How much were you involved in the rewrite of the WOTUS rule that went into effect, and at the USDA were you able to provide input into that process?
Mr. Chairman, do you want to give me a minute to respond to that, or do you want me to respond in writing?
Respond in writing, please. As much as I'd like to hear it myself.